What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com. Welcome to week 8 of the Keto Build series. So, a lot has been going on. We're actually filming. I normally film these on Monday. It is now Friday. We're a little behind. We did KetoCon all last week, and I kind of talked about the fact that we were headed to KetoCon, the last vlog updates, and that I was probably going to do a deload, and that I was probably going to be less accurate with the tracking, and that is exactly what took place. So, we left on Wednesday of last week. We got back on Monday of this week, and it was a million miles an hour. I probably averaged about 4 hours of sleep each night, so not ideal for training or recovery. I was on my feet all day talking to people, presenting. We had the booth, all kinds of chaos. It was great, but definitely not optimal setting for bodybuilding recovery deload. So I did make it a deload week because we had just inconsistent gym scenes, all that good stuff. So I was buying a day pass at LA Fitness twice, and then I had a membership at Crunch, so I went there twice, and I ran one of those days. I did cardio one of those days, stairmaster. So didn't really miss any of my workouts. I stayed on top of my workouts, which I felt great about, and I pretty much structured my deload such that it was the same exercises, the same movement, the same number of training days, but with half of the training load. So much less weight than normal, and I was pretty much doing about, I can't talk right now, pretty much doing about 12 reps for every set, so a little bit higher on the rep count, focusing on the blood flow, getting that dialed in, but I was able to get a good pump, and just stay active, which is good. For me, when I'm traveling, driving 10 hours, just simply moving, getting my blood pumping, and getting some activity in is like the best thing I can do to just not get all stiff from the travel. So that was key for me. But again, the lack of sleep was probably not conducive to the chaos of the week. Also, as far as the foods went, I definitely ate a lot of barbecue. We were in Texas. I'm not in a cut right now, so obviously I can afford to be a little bit more flexible with my intake. And as a result of the barbecue, so the increased sodium in that, eating a lot of the food, the tracking, or the not tracking rather, I was kind of guesstimating, like I'd tracked my intake the whole time, but I wasn't bringing a scale with me, so it was kind of an estimation. And I didn't really go ballistic on the calories. Like I had a couple days that were 3,500, 4,000. I think I had one day at 5,000 calories, but not really much beyond that. Like I wasn't blowing out, going ballistic on my intake. I was just not able to track it as accurate. And I was probably overestimating on some of these days just to play it safe because I knew I was going to be eating more. But in light of the extra food, the extra sodium, and the travel, and the lack of sleep, my body held and retained a ton of extra fluid. I think I hit a high. I did bring my body scale with me, and I think I hit 197.1 at one point, which is pretty heavy for me, for sure. That was all the result of that fluid retention. Once I got back into my normal routine this week, that all flushed out, and I'm back to around 193, 193.6, pretty much on average now. So my weight has stabilized. This week, post-deload and back home in my normal setting, I've been pretty much playing catch-up, so I've not really been caught up because I'm playing catch-up from being gone all last week. But I am training per usual this week, going hard, going heavy. I had an interview with somebody yesterday. They came in to interview, and I wanted to do deadlifts with them as part of the interview. So I did sumo deadlifts as my leg movement that morning with training, and I did conventional deadlifts that afternoon for my back movement. So 2 deadlift sessions in one day was pretty brutal, but I feel like my body's recovered as a result of that deload. Feeling a little stiff right now, though, not going to lie. But the training's been good. I feel like all my lifts have been going up. I did do a InBody scan today. That pegged me at 193.6 on the weight, and then it had me at 19% body fat on the body fat. And I still am holding a little bit of fluid, so that's going to skew things a little bit. And like I've said, I'm definitely on the higher end of my body fat for a building phase. I'm probably not quite 19%. If I had to guess, if I was going to do a DEXA, I'd probably peg me at around 17%. I was planning on doing a DEXA this weekend, today actually, but I am not going to Little Rock anymore where the DEXA machine is located, so I will be getting a DEXA, but it will now not be until later this month. So I will be getting a DEXA, but it'll be a few more weeks until that data is in hand. Speaking of which, I should probably also get some updated blood work. So I will get that scheduled as well. I will definitely do that this month because I've got some exciting things happening next month. So this month, I'm pretty much just letting my mental state be at peace with the higher food, the higher body fat, the higher weight, and pretty much just letting things stabilize at the higher end of that intake. I am tracking on my meals, I'm weighing everything out, but I'm trying to consume the foods that are going to be more volatile in nature. So like I'm eating pork chops and lamb chops right now, meat that are more primal cuts on the bone, a little bit more volatility in them, more variance than say like a ground beef or ground lamb or something like that. So I am eating all of that up this week, so that this month rather, so that next month I can kind of resort back to the ground varieties and be able to kind of track things with a little bit more closeness, because I do have some exciting things, like I said, coming up next month. More on that later. But that's pretty much a recap there on food training. This is a chart of my caloric intake in chronometer from February, and you can kind of see how that intake has risen over the past several months, and then now it started to decline, and here we are in June, and I'm averaging, I'm pretty much averaging around 3,500 to 3,800 calories. Probably my normal average, I would guess. And if you look at the calorie mark here, that's the 4,000 calorie line. So I am under 4,000 calories more often than not. This little stint was when I was at KetoCon, so a little bit higher there. But generally speaking, in my normal setting, I'm under the 4,000 calorie mark. So I would say around 3,500 to 3,800 calories has been my norm. And then here's my weight down here. You can see in February, I was coming out of that reverse diet still, so much lower weight. That has trended up. And let's see here. I hit 193.4 in April. And then pretty much since then, I've been right around that mark. I had that little drop to 185 when I did that 3-day fast. But for the most part, 193 in April, and then I've more or less been holding that steady up to this point as well. So my body has, for all intents and purposes, pretty much stabilized at, 190 to 195 between 3,500 and 4,000 calories, we'll call it, which is a pretty good maintenance. Again, I was looking at some footage from prior years, and I feel like I've got more or less the same composition now as I did then when I was 10 pounds lighter. So I have no doubt that I've built more muscle, which I'm very excited about. But it'll be quite some time before I lean down to the point where I can see that, in detail. Because I am not going to be transitioning into a cut anytime soon. So that is a recap on that. Totally forgot to throw in some pictures. So here's some pictures of this week. Again, these were taken today, which is Friday, whereas they're normally taken on Monday. I did do some cupping yesterday to try and work out some of the kinks from that travel extent. So do have the cupping on my back there. But all in all, definitely on the higher end of the body fat that I feel comfortable with, but still within the window of what I would deem acceptable in a building phase. There's no need for me to get beyond this point in body fat, but I have not yet hit sloppy status, and I don't intend to hit sloppy status. This is the peak of where I feel comfortable from a body fat range. So I'm on the higher end of that now, taking in plenty of calories to optimize muscle growth. My strength markers are improving. So yeah, there is that. That's a recap on week 8. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Got some exciting things happening next little bit, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, see y'all next week for week 9.